Welcome back to the Outnumber podcast with Joey and Alleigh, where we talk about our life with kids, our jobs, our careers, our family, relationships, how we went from dating in high school to being outnumbered by our children. We talk about all that and much more. This is episode number 4, and today we're talking about
5 things that we wish we would have known before we had kids.
Yeah, so like advice for first-time parents. Let's do it. So I remember when you were pregnant with Miles, and there's one piece of advice that we got a lot. I feel like it probably wasn't the only piece of advice, but it feels like it was the only piece of advice looking back.
Yeah.
Which was?
It was like some form of, sleep while you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ominous warning that you'll never sleep again
Yeah.
once you have a baby. Like over and over and over. So I felt like, I don't know, I remember being frustrated by it. Because I remember thinking like, isn't this supposed to be a good thing?
Well, and you were like, I was excited.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, and I don't know. and it's funny. Yeah. Cause I feel like that was the only thing that people ever wanted to tell you, like, oh, you're having your first kid. And they might have started with like, congrats. And then it was sleep while you can. Or my favorite was store up on sleep while you can. Which
like that works.
I don't think that's how sleep works.
I don't think that is how it works.
You can like put it in the sleep bank and then use
I don't
it later.
think so.
I don't think so. So, but that's what everyone said. And I actually remember vividly, like, and this would have been like 6 years ago, but when I was in the Air Force and Air National Guard, and we had a big drill weekend, and we were being inspected by like big Pentagon Air Force. And so they had a bunch of inspectors in our whole unit, and then they like a person attached to each one of our shops. And so there's this guy who was like following us around all weekend, like evaluating us, inspecting us. And at the end of the weekend, me, my supervisor, and then this inspector guy, we're just chatting. We're done with it all. And so we were just kind of talking, and you were pregnant with Miles. And so my supervisor told this inspector guy that I was kind of expecting normal response from people. Congrats, you're never gonna sleep again. But nobody else. He had the most unique, and I didn't even know this guy. And he was kind of this quiet guy, and he just said, he's like, that's awesome. You guys are gonna do great. People have been having kids for a long time, and everyone else has figured it out, and you'll figure it out. And I remember thinking like, oh man, that was really cool. Like it was positive and really relaxed. And then I was like, that's a great point. Like people have been having kids for a really long time. Yeah. And if they can figure it out, we can figure it out. And if they're surviving on little sleep, then so can we. So I don't know. Right. It was nice, but.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's easy to like, especially when you're in the midst of it, it's easy to feel like the negative parts like outweigh.
Oh yeah. Totally.
But I think too, like, it's just a reminder to like current parents to like be intentional and not share all your heavy, frustrating parenting things, because
with people who
haven't had kids yet, like that's not the place to like vent. Because
and I've definitely learned from that experience. And so when I encounter first time parents, like I'm always super positive. I'm like, it's great. Well, you'll do fine. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. Because it's a good thing. We want to encourage people, and I firmly believe that as believers we should be having kids and
discourage them.
All right, well, let's get into we got 5 things that we wish, other than the sleep thing, people would have told us before we had kids. And so number 1, would you want to start with the sleep one, since we're already talking about sleep?
Sure.
All right.
I thought we were already doing number 1.
Go ahead. All right, yes.
What the sleep is, you say it. You have the notes.
Well, it was your line though. You said sleep is not linear.
Oh, linear. Yeah. I think people just assume like, oh, are they sleeping through the night? Like as if you like arrive and then like you're there. And I just think like
someone asked
we've
you that the
never
other day,
like arrived and then like stayed there.
Yeah.
Like Ezra was sleeping through the night. He slept through the night 2 times. I don't know, 2 months in. Never again.
Yeah. Didn't someone ask you that at like Home Depot the other day?
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, my daughter slept through the night at 3 weeks old." And congratulations.
But I also doubt it. But no, I like what you mean. So it's not linear. So yeah, it's never like you get to a point and then they just sleep through the night forever.
Yeah, like think about adults. Like, do you sleep the exact same way every single night?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of factors. No, we don't. There's a lot of factors, but I just think I think it's, I don't know, it's almost like shaming in that like if your kid isn't then sleeping through the night by 8, you know, whatever. And some babies maybe do like start sleeping through the night and it's like consistent, but I just feel like in general, it's probably not.
Yeah. The way I always describe it is like, it feels like it's phases or seasons. And
yes,
and
always
what I always
changing.
tell people, yeah, even the good ones or the bad ones, like
just when you think like, oh, my 2-year-old goes to sleep so easily and sleeps all night, then it's like a month later, they don't do that anymore.
Right. And so that's what I say. But what I always say is like, it's temporary and they will go back to sleep through the night.
It's just
eventually.
like a constant like this.
Yeah. And there's times where it's like, man, they're sleeping great, or they're going to sleep easily. Like they fall asleep right away.
Yeah.
And now currently we're in a season with our 2-year-old. We're like, he's fighting naps and bedtime.
And before that, our now 5-year-old, he was probably 4 more so at the time. We sat in his room every single night.
But like now he's really easy.
He fell asleep.
And he sleeps
now
great,
he goes
and
to
like
sleep.
he'll sleep in if he's up late, and like he's doing great. And then now we're in a rough patch with the 2-year-old. But like I always try to remind myself that's temporary.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to him sleeping well again. So yeah, I think that's good.
I think it just takes pressure off. Like if I think like, oh, my baby is supposed to be sleeping through the night, why isn't he? Like that's just stressful, and it's not necessary because every baby's different.
Yep.
Like every routine is different. The way that, you know, they say like do a bedtime routine, like everybody's is different. I just feel like there's so many variables that I don't know play in, and there's no reason to like stress or put pressure on yourself because it just makes it more stressful.
Exactly. So yeah, on top of, I think the better piece of advice to give about sleep is just a reminder that
go with the flow.
there will be great times where everyone's sleeping awesome.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of those. And I would say of the 5.5 years that we've been parents and had kids sleeping in our house, I would say most of the time we sleep pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I would say too, like you got to do what works in the sleep category. I know, but I'll get there.
That's the next one.
I know, but like in the sleep category though, like do what works. Don't like feel like you have to do something a certain way because everyone else says you have to do it that way.
Yeah.
Like if something works and it works, then do it. You know, it doesn't have to look like how everyone else
like you
says
said,
it needs
there was
to look.
a season where we sat in the bedroom with our 4-year-old until he fell asleep.
Yes.
And it was a season, and
A
it
long
probably
season.
felt really long in the time that we don't do that anymore. And now he
Right.
goes to sleep great on his own, and we got past it. But in that time, it was like, well, if we don't do this, it's just going to be a battle, and he's going to get out of bed 18 times, and we're all going to be frustrated. And so, and I don't know that, but then everyone will have an opinion about, oh, you should not do that, or you should do that. But it's like, well, it's like this is what's going to get him to sleep, and
instincts and do what you think is.
And because during that season, the 2-year-old went to bed great.
Yeah.
And so, like, I could just put him in his crib. He'd fall asleep on his own, go sit with Miles till he fell asleep. And so, like that. And now it's reversed. And so, that's why that's the perspective thing, I think, with that. With the sleep advice, it's like, sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's rough, but the rough won't last forever.
Right.
The great won't last forever either, but that's okay.
Sure, but you have to be willing to adjust, and Yeah.
So that's the better piece of advice as opposed to you'll never sleep again, which is what we most often heard.
Yeah.
All right. Good with number 1?
Yeah.
All right. So you hit on number 2 a little bit, but I like the way you put it with just do what works best for you. Don't feel pressure, right? Is that what you mean? Don't feel the pressure to do things.
Yeah. There's all these like society pressures where other people, I feel like, are, like, oh, don't do this or do that, or
you can't do this with your kid because you'll mess them up.
You'll mess them up. You know, if they nurse to sleep, then that's the only way they'll ever be able to sleep. I'm like, I don't think. Well, 1, I don't really think I care because it's easier. But 2, I don't know. I just don't feel like I'm worried about it. Like they're gonna turn out. They're gonna be okay. And I think if then I adopt everybody else's or
the
adopt
other
everybody else's
example you had was like crying baby. If you want to pick up your crying, what did you say about that?
Yeah, if you want to pick up your crying baby, pick up your crying baby. Like, I think we have instincts in us that make us feel bad that our baby's crying. So, like, I think for me, I want to go pick up my baby. Like, I feel bad if they're crying. I'm not going to, like, sit there and let them cry because I feel bad. And obviously that's, like, a super controversial thing. But I'm just saying for me, I don't want...
cry it out
We tried it, and it was awful. It was terrible. Miserable. For like 3 days, and it worked after 3 days.
With Miles?
Yeah, but then I just felt like even with Miles, like we did like a gentle cry it out thing, and I think just because we
handled it better than I did.
So desperate.
I remember going downstairs and I couldn't.
No, it was torture. I remember being so irritated. But I think like with that, I felt this pressure of like, he still wants to nurse all night and he's tired and he wakes up a million times a night and doesn't sleep in his crib for naps. And so it was like this pressure of like, well, he should be. When in reality, he was the only kid. Like, I could have done whatever and it didn't really matter. I think it was more so for me. I just needed a break. But I don't know. I just think like to do that, we did that. And then it was like, I don't know. I just felt then like I couldn't even go in there. Like if he was like sick, I felt like I had to be so careful or I was going to screw it up, because that's kind of what everyone says. Like if you show him that you're going to pick him up and take him out of his crib when he's crying, then he's always going to do that. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, but he needs me.
You hear those things a lot.
So like there's a line, but I just think for me, it was like, I was trying to like, almost like please other people, which is stupid because it's my kid in my life.
Yeah, or I think, especially as a first-time parent, you do hear things like that and you don't know any different because it's your first time. And so
and you don't want to mess them up.
If you hear an absolute statement like that of you can't do this thing or this will happen, then I would say you have a tendency to believe that as a first-time parent.
Right.
You're making it up as you go. You don't know.
Yeah.
You're figuring it out as you go. And so I think parents who do that, you just want to do what's best for your kid. Like, that's what we all want to do. So what's best for your kid. But at the same time, it's like, you got to do like what's good for us in some ways, where it's like, man, if nobody's sleeping, then we got to figure something else out so that we can all get some sleep.
Yeah. Well, and there's a level of like with Ezra, our 6-month-old, there are times when he kind of is fussing or protesting in his little bouncer chair. Yeah. And I am doing something else and I can't tend to him at the moment, but I know he's not like screaming. He's not so upset. He's just kind of working through it.
And
so there are times, he'll fall asleep and I let him do that. Sometimes I still feel bad, but like he will fall asleep and he'll be fine. But there's a level, I think, of like, just at the point where I'm like, okay, they need me.
So do what works for you.
Follow your instincts. Follow your instinct,
but do some research too. And get multiple opinions is what I would say. Because like if you talk to enough moms, you'll find
do research. But
even if you just talk to people you know, you'll find enough moms that did something.
They'll all have and they'll all have different opinions.
And they'll tell you their ways the right way.
But then you can kind of even mold like what you like from each thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Into your own method. It doesn't have to be like, oh, there's a book about this and so I'm going to follow it to a T. Like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Less is more. Third piece of advice.
Yes.
Less is more. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think to start, I'm just thinking like, oh, everyone's always like, oh, babies are so expensive.
Yeah.
Babies are not expensive. Babies literally want milk and probably a clean diaper and their mom. That's about it.
And like our babies will literally just put them in pajamas
all the time.
Ezra is still
he wears the same pajamas like 3 days in a row. I bought him cute clothes.
4 different pajamas that we cycle through in like a week.
I bought him cute clothes and I thought like, oh, this will be so fun to dress him in.
That sounds bad. It's probably more than 4. He wears clean clothes.
We also do laundry all the time.
But no, I was gonna bring that up too because you do hear that a lot from people.
As
like,
if it's the baby's fault.
We can't afford a kid. Yeah. Right? But I mean, if you're gonna buy every fancy baby gadget out there, then you're right. You can't afford kids, but you really don't need the most expensive car seat. You don't need the newest stroller model. Right.
And there are things like I think we've learned like there are things we'd be willing to like more so splurge on than not.
Like
mean, I think you want a safe car seat. It doesn't have to be like the trendy car seat, but
what did we learn? What did you research recently? Like actually, sometimes the trendy, most popular car seat's not the safest one.
Yeah, one of the most trendy ones is currently not real great on the safety list. So
but it's the one like everyone has. And it's expensive.
It is expensive. So I think like just doing your research, but being willing to splurge on certain things.
Yeah, safety is important. 100%.
Safety obviously is important, but like your kid doesn't need, super expensive. I feel like there's certain brands right now for clothes that are like so expensive, and they like one clothes?
Of
them, yes.
Like how expensive?
I just mean like $40 for a pair of pajamas
for a baby.
But like it's popular, for a baby. But Ezra had them, and because someone gifted them to us, and they literally were so pilly and like.
Well, and then
within like a month.
He is expanding rapidly. I won't even say growing. He's
it's not worth it.
He's expanding.
I think my splurge is like I would prefer like cotton clothes. Like I would, not that I'm going to spend a ton of money on it. I honestly thrift like the majority of our kids' clothes because they trash them in like 2 seconds. But I I think cotton for me is like something I'd be willing to like splurge a little bit more on versus like, you know, polyester and stuff. Like a safe car seat, and then like clean diapers, like a clean brand without all the extra nasty ingredients. But other than that,
which aren't even that much more expensive anymore.
No, I don't
like,
feel
you can
like
find
they are.
really affordable,
like Walmart has
good
some
diaper
good
options.
ones.
Yeah, Walmart.
It's usually where I get them. So I don't know.
But I think also with the less is more thing, other than money, like also just your house. Like,
yes, you don't want your house to be overtaken.
We realized really early on with Miles was like, there's no room. And we
Our
had a
living
small house
space
at
was
the time,
tiny,
but it's
but
like because we have 3 different things to put them in.
Yeah.
Like we probably don't need that. Especially with one kid, you can just plop them on the couch before they're rolling. You can plop them anywhere; they don't move. You know?
I think it's good too to just like lay your baby on the floor. Like I think that's good for them. I want to say they say baby container things like that aren't actually super great for development, but maybe that's wrong.
But just from the sake of clutter, like
yeah, for sure,
more, and you don't need every new baby thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think too, like, I think for us, obviously when you're having your first, like you have no clue what you'll use or what you need. So I think
so you
like,
just put everything on your registry because like you assume that you need it all. Yeah.
Which is hard because obviously if someone's willing to buy it for you and you think you might use it, like that would be the best situation.
That's why it's good advice for parents to know because you don't know what you think you'll want or need. And remember,
but I think like very minimal without all the extra, like, I'm trying to think of some examples. Like, I think a good bouncer, like the little seat thing that they like lay down in, you know, I think that's good. I think I would consider a swing in the future. But other than that, like a car seat, obviously a high chair eventually.
But eventually, like you don't need everything
that's true.
at once.
But if someone's willing to buy it for you, like
that's true.
have them buy it for you.
Your kid's not going to be in a high chair for a while.
Right, probably 6 months-ish. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I don't know. But really, if you think about it, like a car seat if you're going to go places, obviously. But otherwise, like clothes, kind of. They don't really, I mean, a blanket would work for a while. Diapers, wipes, and then like some sort of food source. Like
milk. They need
ideal.
milk. Yes. They need milk.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just feel like kids are not
expensive
expensive in themselves.
I think that's a great piece of advice because it kind of releases a parent from thinking that they have to buy everything.
Yeah, your baby's not going to notice or care.
That's true.
So put it in their college fund instead.
They have the essentials, then they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the next one because everything we've talked about so far is post-birth stuff, right? Like parenting or kid advice for when the kid's here. But and that's mostly when you have conversations with people, like when you're pregnant with your first kid. I think most of the time that's what people are focused on, like, and that makes sense. But the part that you don't often get advice about, probably because people feel weird talking about it, but is birth. And so I think one thing you would really say is like, man, when you're pregnant with your first, like spend time focusing and preparing and researching birth itself, I think right?
It has to start with research. Like I don't think I had any clue.
What birth was going to be like? No, how
my midwife said get diapers, and I was like,
for you,
for me, and I was like, ha, funny. She was like, no, I'm serious. Like what? Like you need to know what to expect so that you can prepare, but like do some research into like what is it like, and then like what kind of things do you need, but also just like finding and lining up support, like whether it be like meals that you prep in the freezer or like, you know, coordinate with someone to like set you a meal train up or whatever. I just think like that's the part that's like super missed and super necessary.
Yeah. I remember being in our appointments with our midwife.
Our what?
Appointments.
Oh, I heard appointments.
Appointments with our midwife the first time. And we would be there for hour plus, and we just had so many questions. Or we didn't even know what to ask, so she would like, have you thought about this? And we're like, no. Because there's a lot of just like once the baby's born, right away there's a lot of decisions that you like, a lot of questions that you have to have answers to. Like, do you want the vitamin K shot for your kid? Do you want the eye ointment? Do you like, if it's a boy, do you want to circumcise? Like there's a lot of decisions that you have to make in the first couple of days
that you wouldn't think about. Yeah,
that's good to have. Like, and if you have a prepared answer for that, that's great because you're not going to want to have to figure it out.
No, that's a little
with a newborn. You know, like you want to enjoy those moments, and so being as prepared as possible. Like, I think it's good to decide what car seat you want to have, like that's good too. But also,
Yeah.
man, it's like before you get to all that,
Right.
like there's some decisions that you have to make pretty early on with a baby, and you want to
Yeah.
be prepared to know. And that's why I think our experience with our midwife was great, because she asked us those questions beforehand.
Yeah.
So before we were holding the baby, so we could
knew, yeah,
we could
what we
decide
wanted to do.
what we wanted to do. Yeah.
I think too, like having food prepared, like that's something you think, like I don't know that you would really think about it until you're like hungry after. But I think having food just coming through, and ideally like nutrient dense things that are going to help you replenish, like like that is so nice.
Yeah.
To have meals, even if you don't want to socialize and you just ask them to drop it on the porch, like for a meal train, like that I feel like is huge.
Oh yeah, that's necessary.
So huge.
And I think, like you said though, I think it's okay to be a little specific about what kind of food you want.
Right.
You remember with the first time, I don't think we were necessarily specific.
No.
And someone brought us the biggest lasagna
15 pounds
ever seen.
Yep.
Like it was, and she was like Italian.
Yeah.
It was so good, but I think I put it in the freezer.
Yeah,
and
you did. Like
I was
half
bringing
of it
to lunch for like the rest of the school year. But because it was thick
like
too.
Yeah, it was like 15 pounds. Seriously.
Which is great, but it's like,
huge.
I don't want to eat this forever.
Yeah.
So like, and I think we'll talk about that, because on the postpartum part of things, like you've learned recently that there's specific things that you should and shouldn't be eating for healing your body, right?
Well, that's something that I feel like nobody talks about.
Talk about it.
Even, no, I'm about to, but even even in like the midwife realm, like I feel like they do a really good job of like instructing you on how to like heal and like rest really well, like staying in bed for 2 weeks.
Yeah, what's the rule
It's
there?
5 days in bed, 5 days on bed, and 5 days near your bed.
Right. After birth.
Yeah, because you're just going to set yourself up for much better healing, which there's actually, I don't know if it's statistics or what, but there's this book that I was reading that says that if you commit to healing and nourishing your body for the first 40 days after birth, like you're setting up your health and healing for like the rest of your life if you like really nurture yourself in that season. But it also plays into like depression and anxiety, like postpartum.
Yeah. If you're intentional right after, you mean?
Yeah, like really just focus on replenishing, resting, like your body needs rest.
Yeah.
And I remember it being hard with our first, but then after that it was like, please let me stay here for a long time. I don't want to get out of bed.
But I don't think you knew that 5-5-5 rule with Miles, right?
I knew I was supposed to stay in bed for like 2 weeks.
Oh,
but
you didn't?
No, I didn't, because I was just antsy.
Yeah.
Versus like the second and third, it was
you did
like
a much better job of that.
I knew there were responsibilities and people that needed me downstairs.
I think I didn't know that with Miles, that you were supposed to stay. And then I did with the second two. So I would be more intentional about like making you get back in bed. I mean, especially the most recent one. I was like,
I think I just didn't realize too, like how important it was. I thought like, oh, I feel fine.
And it was easier, like with Miles was born in our first house, and our bedroom and the kitchen were on the same floor.
So that was easy to
nice,
kind of
in our current house,
wander.
Bedroom's upstairs and the kitchen's downstairs.
It takes a lot more effort to get down there.
Right. So that's more effort on me. And I just know like how, because you had taught me a lot about how important that right after birth time is healing, and you just being in bed with the baby and bonding. And so I would just, I felt like a waiter. And a cook, where I would just be like, what do you want to eat? But it's fun because like people are bringing you food and stuff, and so I would just like constantly bringing you up food and letting you eat in bed. And so once I knew like that, why I was doing that, because it's so important that you heal, and not just for that moment, but for, like you said, it helps with postpartum stuff.
Yeah, it's huge for the
down
future,
the road
too. Well, and then you think about too, if like you have multiple kids, like your first, if you don't replenish, then you're behind, starting with your second one, and then your second one, if you don't replenish, then you're again behind, and then like by the third, like I'm kind of feeling that, in that I just feel like I'm so depleted, and it's really just something that like you have to just research on your own. Like nobody really is gonna tell you, what you have to do about it. Unless I guess you hire them to do that. But like in general, people aren't just going around going, oh, for postpartum depletion, like do this,
Well, and talk about the types of food, because then
I was going there and then I forgot.
Like warm foods.
Yeah,
right?
There's a couple books, one that I read and one that I didn't read, but I would like to read. But one is called The First 40 Days, and it's specific about like kind of more so other cultures and how they handle postpartum. Like the aunts and the grandma and the, mom, they all like literally come live with you for a while, and they literally do everything so that you just stay in bed.
Yeah.
Like make food, and it's all these like ancient traditions of like broths and different stuff like that. But it's
and
like
it's that
only
40-day
warm.
thing, don't they do it for
they do like a celebration.
They move in for like 40 days.
Yeah,
though, right?
and then like on the 40th day, I think this was Chinese, maybe like a Chinese kind of tradition. On the 40th day, they do like a ceremony. Like it's just like a whole thing. And here it's like we don't do that.
Yeah.
But it's also like you're not eating salads. Like you're not eating cold food. Like you're not drinking cold drinks. It was basically like don't even drink cold water. Like drink tea to get your like obviously like not caffeinated.
What's the idea behind that?
Like,
just warm.
It's warm because if you're eating cold, your body's working super hard to warm it up to then digest it. Like if you're eating warm food, it's easier to digest. It takes your body less effort because if your body's trying to heal, but you're eating cold food, then it's having to take away from the healing to like process and digest it better versus
because your body
if it's already warm,
is healing, replenishing, and also feeding a
doing a lot of things. So if you give yourself warm food, it's I guess easier
and just
to
like
heal.
resting and recovering, right? Because your body just did a lot of hard work.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, just interesting. But then there's one called the postpartum depletion, I think, that I would like to read. But just more specific about like what you're then lacking afterward and how to generally replenish. Because that's just something that is a huge issue. Yeah. And nobody really knows the answer, it seems like.
Well, it's interesting. And I've heard of couples recently like having their first and they'll say things like, we don't want anybody to come over for like a month.
Yeah.
And I'm always in the back of my mind like, I think you might change your mind on that.
I think so. And if that's where you're at, like,
that's
do
just
it.
So interesting what you said. That's so opposite of what other people do, other cultures do. It's like, no, like we realize this is a big thing and you need support. And I understand why someone would say that. Like you just want time alone with your baby and you want to recover. And I think we also just kind of in our society often don't want people to see the difficult or messy or ugly parts of things, but it's
there's
like
a lot of cultures that live like multi-generationally, and then here we are and we're like we have our own house, our own cars, like
space,
give me my space. So that's kind of like our culture. But I think like it would do us a lot of good to like, and very intentionally, don't just invite someone in that just wants to hold your baby. Like it's great for them to hold your baby, but like obviously there's so many more things that need tended to, like dishes or to vacuum the house or to I don't know, feed you food. I think those things, if we could start as a culture, like start to offer to do those things, and you can hold the baby, but like if the mom's cool with it.
And the meal train thing is definitely something that happens, and that's great.
Yeah,
like, that's super important. As well, and I mean that's like
but I
one
think
of my favorite
too,
things.
A lot of times, like for me, I feel hesitant like offering to do stuff like that because I don't want to step on. I don't want them to feel like, I guess you can come do that if they don't want me to do that. So I think like one, I need to probably just get over that, but two, I think it would just be important for like me to be like, Mom, could you do this specifically? Yeah. Could you, like, to your mom, do this specifically? Could that, like, be your job? Because they're always willing to help, at least in our case.
Sometimes people don't know how.
But they don't know how. And also don't know, like, what's the best or the most helpful.
So that's a great piece of advice right there for, like, telling a new mom, like, be specific about, because you're going to have people, hopefully, if you have a good support system. But, like, hopefully, and if you don't, that's a bigger problem. But like if you do have people, like there's people who are gonna want to help, and so be specific. I don't need a meal today, I really just need someone to put a load of laundry in,
do some laundry or clean or do the dishes.
And I think most people will be willing to do whatever if it means they can come over and see your baby.
True.
So
True.
It's like, hey, come put some laundry in and then you can hold the baby.
Right.
That's why people do meal training. I'm gonna bring you a meal so I can see your baby.
Kind of, yeah.
And it's great, and that's but
it's definitely the more exciting part. But I think too, like if we could shift our focus more to the mom.
Lasagna, then be specific about what you need. Like it was like, actually, I don't need. We're good. We got a lot of food in the fridge right now.
Right.
People have been generous, but
there's something else.
Maybe and you've even done that too, where it's like before birth, you'll make meals and put them in the freezer.
I try.
And that was really cool.
Our second, I had your mom do it because she loves making meals. So I paid her for all the ingredients, and I just asked her if she would like prep a bunch of meals. So she literally probably put like 15 meals in our freezer over a couple months, which was massive.
That's awesome too, because the meal train will die down after a few weeks. And then
I remember being postpartum, being so hungry, but like having 2 kids and trying to manage that and literally being able to just like pull lunch out of the freezer. But yeah, I think being specific with what you need help with, but also just digging in and researching. I can't remember what point we're on, but just
the 4th one,
digging in a little bit and doing some research on like what the best ways are to support yourself or to prepare to support yourself. You know, having like certain, like maybe certain tinctures to like replenish or just kind of, and ask around too, like research and ask around, like just to get a better idea of like what are you going to need and what's going to be the most helpful.
So I think this is a big one, but I think we kind of talked about twofold, right? So doing research and thinking through the mom, what she needs postpartum.
Right.
But then also the baby, like decisions for the baby, like you and your spouse should have a conversation about vaccines before the baby's born.
Yeah, for sure. You need to be on the same page about all that stuff.
Yeah, about breastfeeding before the baby's born. You should have and do research and talk to other moms and
even like have a like lactation consultant that you know of, like find one, seek one out. That's so that good. Like if you need help, because I think so
talk
often
about breastfeeding
I think like so often like you get to a point and you're like, okay, I need help, like you're stressing because your baby maybe isn't gaining weight or whatever, and it's like you're so stressed and you're postpartum, like that's not the time to like seek out someone to help you. I mean, obviously do it. Of finding somebody. Like do it if you need it, but I just mean it would take so much off of you in that situation. If you already had someone, you're like, oh, I know I can call this person because I need help.
And like our doula is also a lactation.
Well, not technically, but yeah, I would trust her just as the same.
But that was it, because like we already had some appointments with her scheduled post
just in
birth,
case.
And then like you did have some struggles with Miles breastfeeding, right? And so
nothing like crazy. It was just like the first 2 weeks are kind of not fun.
We'll talk about that a little bit, because I don't know if people realize that.
But I think that's I would say the first 2 weeks are like, for me at least, are always like, this is awful. But after that, it's like worth it for sure. It's just so much easier.
But talk about that and how it was nice having, because you did ask her some questions and.
Oh yeah, maybe she did come over.
Yeah.
But just. I don't know, having someone that like is knowledgeable in that I don't know if you have questions or concerns or if something.
I mean, that was something I didn't expect. I didn't realize. I just figured like breastfeeding's just, I don't know.
That's what everyone thinks. I think it's just natural. Easy. You just do it.
But like it was painful, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not something you typically do. So.
Right. And so especially with the first kid, it's like, man.
Well, even the second I think actually was worse.
Really?
Yeah, but third was a breeze, so I don't know what that's about. But it's important to have someone too if you're having trouble, because.
You don't
like
think
they could
latching,
have a tongue tie or a lip tie, and not to say they couldn't do it well.
Did a little bit, so that was probably why his was more painful. Yeah, but yeah, that was something I didn't realize. I remember with Miles, like she came over and helped you with that. I remember that specifically because I was watching the Rockies in the playoffs. That's the last time they've been in the playoffs. But we don't have to get into that. But that's and I remember like that was something and I was like, I don't know how to help you with that. I didn't even know it would be a struggle, and you didn't know it'd be a struggle. So thinking through, like, hey, if I have a question, who am I gonna call?
Who are you gonna call? Like, be prepared would just, I think, take some stress off. Just knowing that even if you wanted them to come over before you're having trouble, just to be prepared and have support.
That's unfortunately a big gap, and too many moms don't have that specific breastfeeding support, and then they give up.
I mean, I would think so. I don't know. I mean, there's times obviously where there's different things
going on, sure.
At play, but I would think a lot of it probably has to do with support. I don't know. I think it's worth it if you can just figure it out and push through. And obviously that's not going to work in every single circumstance, but I think a lot of them could.
Yeah.
And it just make your life a lot easier in the long term, a lot cheaper and a lot easier.
Sometimes you end up with a really fat baby though.
I don't know what's up with that. Ours are all really fat.
Well, this newest one is kind of
Someone said he looked thinner.
We both went to the chiropractor yesterday, and both of our lower backs were like messed up.
Yeah.
From carrying that kid around.
Yeah, but someone said he looked thinner, so.
Really?
That's good. Progress.
Okay.
He's about to start moving. He'll thin out real quick.
All right, well, that was a good one. That was a lot. Anything else on that one?
I don't think so.
It's a lot to think through, but it's important, I think, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, and not to like stress over it. Like, don't stress that you're not prepared in all those areas. I think it's just,
because you can't fully be.
No, you can't fully prepare or even foresee like any issues. But I think just the point is just having people to support you.
I think just knowing what to, because a lot of times I just don't even know what to think about the first time. I remember so many times with our first pregnancy just being like,
right,
I haven't even thought about that.
But I think for us, like, obviously everybody has their own path, but like to have a midwife was huge because
that level
we
of
had
care
an
is different.
hour every appointment to just talk with her. And honestly, like the medical-y parts of the appointment were like so small. It was like 5 minutes. And then the rest of it was just like talking. Yeah. She would have certain points each appointment to like bring up with us and would just like answer questions and ask us about things.
Because we went the home birth route. But even if you go a hospital route, could you still do something like that or what?
I don't know. To have a doula probably would be helpful in that regard. Because just to have someone that's willing to like spend a lot more time talking with you and helping you
doula appointments
think about
are the
things.
Same way.
Yeah.
She'd come over for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely recommend having a doula regardless.
I remember, when we were pregnant with Mal, some of our friends were pregnant with their first in their hospital. And I just remember like we were comparing the like length of our appointments, you know?
Yeah.
And there were just a lot of things that our midwife had told you, like, you need to be drinking this much water, you need to be eating this much protein.
Right.
And she was like, oh, I didn't know that.
But it's like for a purpose. Like it helps avoid issues.
Right.
Anyway, that's a whole other topic, good. I think.
Sure. Okay, last one is just a piece of advice would be thinking through expectations for each other, right? Would you say like
I think I think we would say expectations in like marriage, parenthood, all the things is like expectations are everything.
But I think like thinking through before you have your baby, what are both of our roles going to be?
Sure. Like, is there something that I typically do that you're going to need to pick up the slack on or, whatever? Like if I typically am, I don't even know, like if I do the dishes or the dishwasher, but like I'm obviously not going to be able to do that for a while.
In bed
like,
for 2 weeks.
You're going to need to pick up the slack. And obviously you're going to look around and think, oh, I need to pick up the slack.
Right.
But also, I guess not everybody would naturally think that. But I think just being clear with your expectations of like, maybe even the expectations are just, I don't know what this is going to look like. But like we're going to need to be able to adjust and
communicate.
Yes.
Like that, and we've said that before, but like that's the biggest thing with expectations is like communicate.
Yeah.
And I think I've told this story, but like when Miles was born, like you were in bed with the baby, and so I thought I was being like the best husband and father in the world by just like doing all the dishes and doing all the laundry.
I can't see the dishes.
And
I don't care.
And then finally we had this conversation where you were like, I don't care about the dishes. Like, just hang out with us. And I was like,
I just felt like isolated alone.
I was like, I'm doing all this for you. And
I can't even see them. Right. I'm in my room.
But like, and that was a huge like light bulb moment that I've rememrembered since with the births following. But, but even just like having a conversation and just don't assume anything. So like, I assume that, or have a conversation. Are we both going to change diapers? Because I remember we were on a flight. I think we just had Miles at the time, and I got up in the middle of the flight to go bring Miles to the bathroom.
I don't like flying, and I will not stand up
to change his diaper
unless needed.
But there was a mom who, I don't think she said it to me. I think she had like
4 kids with her, didn't she?
Yeah, and she was like, my husband has never changed a diaper, and her oldest, like, she had a lot of kids, and so I don't know how often that's the thing, but I mean, I'd say we change equal amounts of diapers probably. And so, but maybe that's something that needs to be talked about ahead of time. Like
maybe,
and I don't know. And I think I had a sister who was a lot younger than me, so I had changed diapers when I was in high school and stuff. But I don't know. You remember watching your brother didn't know how to, when his kid was born, didn't know how to change.
Yeah, well, he was like standing there and he was like, isn't someone going to show me how? And I was like, I didn't know.
That you didn't know how.
Yeah.
So just even simple things like ahead of time being like, hey, are you going to help with this? Like, we're going to both help with this.
Yeah.
I don't even know. And it's hard because you don't know all of the different things. But so I guess the biggest piece of advice with that is just like voice your expectations. Like, hey,
and
can you help me with this? Like,
sometimes I'm not good at communicating because I don't want someone to feel burdened to help me. Like, I don't want you to feel burdened to change the diaper because whatever. Like, I want you to want to help me because you want to help me. So I think sometimes I need to be better about being like, hey, this is what I need you to do.
Yeah, I need you to hold the baby so I can take a shower.
Yes.
Right? I need you to.
And obviously, like, if possible, like, it would be nice for you to, like, notice things like that, too, and just be like, hey, I would love to do this. But it's not always going to be that way. And you can't just, like, sit around waiting for them to ask, because that's ridiculous, even though I feel like I do that sometimes, because
that's why I say
I feel like that's probably a woman thing
here in this area is just communicate.
Yeah. But also for the dad to just, like, be aware that, like, this is a big change, and, like, you are a partner in this. Like, you need to be willing, and, like, maybe she doesn't even ask you to change the diaper, but you know it needs to be done. So just, like, get up and do it, because I don't know, that's going to be helpful. And
recently we traveled to Chicago for your brother's wedding, and what did I say? I told you my favorite thing is when you ask me to do something, and I've already done it. And there was, like, the first night in the hotel, there was, like, 3 things that you were like, you asked me, and I was like, I had done them already.
But I think just being engaged, and, like, for the dad to be engaged and aware. My uncle used to always say others aware. Mm-hmm. Like, being aware of others and their needs and their feelings rather than just thinking about you. So I think, like, that's huge, just in being supportive of just, like, being engaged, like, changing the diaper before they need to ask. Before she needs to ask, you know, just, like, jumping up and doing it. I think that goes a long way. Helps to not have resentment.
Yeah, so as much as you can talk about that ahead of time, the better.
Yeah, even just, like, this is just random, but, like, even thinking, I remember always waking up with Miles, our first, like, in the middle of the night, and feeling, like, looking at you and just feeling resentful. Because you were, like, sleeping soundly, and I don't know, I was woken up so many times. But I think, like, if we would have known, like, that was normal, like, I don't what would you do if you were awake anyway? Like, it doesn't make sense. But if, like, there was that expectation of, like, I take the nights, like, obviously if I need to, like, help, you're going to jump in and help. But, like, the majority of the time it's me, and that's just how it is. Right. But, like, if I would have just accepted that and, like, been aware that that's how it is, I would have been less angry about it, I feel like. I was just so tired.
And then I've since figured out, like, you're doing the night shift, but then if he wakes up early, I'll get up with him, get him out of the room, hang out with him so that you can get, like, 2 hours of uninterrupted
Yes, but then there's also times where, like, we've had some times with him, probably more him than any other kids, where he's just been up all night, or, like, super uncomfortable, or something's up, like, he needs to, I don't know if he's, like, needs to burp and just can't, like, whatever it is. I think that too, it's like, it's not fair that I would have to do that by myself, right? Like, so we shifts. Usually are up either together or we'll take turns. But I think I think moms just need to not feel alone because it's a big thing. So totally. Support Teamwork. I don't know what number we're even on, but
that was all of them.
But I don't remember what it was called. So
expectations was number 5.
Perfect.
You did it.
Yep.
We did it. Yay. So I would say last thing, you don't know it all, you won't know it all. You'll figure it out. But I think the overarching theme through all of these is just have a lot of conversations with your spouse about.
And it's going to be always changing, so constant conversation.
Yep, that's right. Roll with it all, and you'll do great. Having kids is awesome.
You don't know.
Hopefully
this
wasn't like. Well, this didn't scare anybody from, like,
it's not even to be scary. I just mean, follow your instincts. Like, I don't know. I think it's just important to, like, do what works for you. I think that was supposed to be the whole thing is, you know.
Having kids is super fun, super rewarding. There are some really difficult moments and nights and days, but overall,
but what
I wouldn't do it anyway.
I feel like I'm learning too. It's like you can either let it. I think my mom used to always say this, like, let motherhood or let parenthood make you better or make you bitter.
Ooh,
and it's like this choice that you have to make of, like, am I gonna let this make me resentful and, like, miserable? And obviously there's days where, like, you feel miserable, but, like, overall, are you gonna let this, like, grow you and make you into a better person? Because I think this is a whole nother thing, a major rabbit trail here, but I feel like recently I've been thinking about how, like, parenthood is at the beginning when you really don't know a whole lot. Like, you're so new to life, really. Versus, like, later on in life, you're, like, more wise. But it's almost like parenthood's at the beginning to, like, form you into who you're supposed to be. Like, that's when it's, like, you don't know everything you need to know, but, like, you need to figure it out and you need to grow as a parent.
That's good.
So that's how you probably become older and wiser.
Totally.
like a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, I've learned a lot about myself since having kids and grown and
seen a lot of like
I like that
our flaws come
bitter.
out.
Yeah.
That didn't come out prior to kids because you weren't in those kinds of situations. So I think like you can let it make you into a better person. And
that's great. So rely on each other, rely on the Holy Spirit, pray a lot. I was gonna say with the sleep thing, I pray a lot in the middle of the night. The kids would go back to sleep and stuff, and that's convicting sometimes because I'm like, man, I should be praying this much all the time because like you know what I mean. There's moments where it's like, just please go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So praying with each other as spouses for your children, as a couple for your children, is huge, and praying about what kind of parents you want to be even before you are.
Yeah. True.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
Great advice. Cool. Good job.
Hey, thanks. You too.
Sweet. Thanks for watching episode 4 of the Outnumbered podcast. If you're expecting your first child, congratulations. And don't worry about the sleep thing.
It'll
See
be
you next
great.
time. You're going to do great. That's right.